So I have a few minutes here with Lance Somerville.
Yep.
And I'd like to just take a moment to introduce you the long way. Lance and I have circled around a universe together, but until recently didn't circle the universe together. So I've long known your wife, Amy Somerville, from the RE/MAX organization. And when I was in the midst of my quest to move brokerages, I had done 4 interviews with Compass, 4 interviews with EXP. I had all signs were pointing to the fact that I should go to EXP. And I knew that your wife was working for Success Magazine. And I had kind of gotten disconnected from her just because life does that, right? Like people just, in the patterns of life, things flow. I thought, before I make this decision, I'm going to call Amy Somerville and ask her. And my husband had done an upgrade on my phone like 2 years ago, and it dumped a bunch of numbers. Like I didn't have her cell phone number anymore. And I was like, ugh, I know what I'm going to do. Lance is a realtor. I'm going to find him anywhere online. So I went to Zillow and I typed in Lance Somerville and it showed up and it brought me your cell phone number and I called you. And it was as if God put you at my feet, because it wasn't that I was supposed to talk to Amy in that moment, though I did ultimately get to Amy and ask the questions I needed, but God was supposed to put you at my feet, that you were just supposed to have me turn my head a different direction, to look at a different thing. And that thing was Real Broker. And I'm very grateful because that's ultimately where DiVito Dreammakers landed this past year at this new company. So tell me, how did you end up there? And why did you leave RE/MAX for EXP? Why did you leave EXP for Real Broker?
First of all, I think it's amazing that you found me through Zillow, which is great considering I'm no longer, in residential, right? But, to answer that, I think it started with RE/MAX. Having been with RE/MAX for 22 and a half years, part of that experience was I got to look under the hood of so many different operations for what I was doing on the West Coast. People don't realize I traveled in 8 different states, in 100 plus cities, doing the franchising, putting together commercial and residential offices. It's a huge behind the scenes or behind the curtain educational experience, because you're looking at all brands. You're looking at all franchise brands, independents, right? So you start to get a real sense of what to ask when you're thinking about your own career.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a pretty unique look, right?
So you train you worked for corporate RE/MAX. You train as a residential agent. And at some point you tip into commercial practice.
Yeah, I'm kind of a mutt, right? So started in real estate in New Mexico, working with Amy. Had that honor to work with my wife. It was fun.
Yeah.
We moved back to Colorado. The funny part about it is headquarters knew they wanted her, right? Like immediately. Yeah. I had to prove myself a lot more. And they were pretty adamant about knowing they wanted Amy, and I was pretty adamant about doing the work that I wanted to do on that West Coast. Yeah. In that franchising, putting those offices together, whether it was startups, conversions, mergers, acquisitions, whatever it was residential and commercial real estate offices. And that's where it began. So we went from residential, working with land, different builders, whatever it was, came into Colorado, started traveling on the West Coast, and got to look under the hood and see all kinds of different operations. Learn what worked, what didn't work. The cloud brokerage is amazing.
Why?
Wow. So many different reasons, but the quickest, shortest answer is it's the 2.0 or new iteration of agent centricity.
How is it different than sort of the days of independent brokerage?
You're empowering the agents with so much more, from a earnings opportunity, freedom, to be able to endorse themselves, but you get that group power, purchase power, right? So you have all the tools and resources that you would in any major brand, but I get to invest in myself in a very different way, right? And part of that is I don't have as an agent, I don't have the line item that a broker has to carry from an OpEx perspective.
The operational cost is low.
Yeah.
The operational cost is low. And really, let's face facts, most solo real estate agents want a low place to operate their business, a low cost place to operate their business. I do think that the franchise model, while it was once the favored model, sadly has become a liability for the industry. And the liability for the industry is that in many cases, the franchises don't own any of their own technology. They don't have anything on the asset side of their ledger. And the franchise owners are a fractured bunch with lots of buildings, actually, commercial buildings, which they can't seem to fill for one reason or the other, but mostly because salespeople in this industry are supposed to be out in the field. The more productive you make a salesperson, the less they should be behind a computer, the less they should be at a desk. They should be out showing. They should be attending closings. They should be knocking doors or attending masterminds events or traveling for conferences. Or that's what a real productive agent is doing. They're not at their desk. Being sort of a slave to the chore of real estate calls for an office setup, but the office environment for real estate brokers has changed a lot. And the cloud brokers have sort of figured this out. They've glommed on to Thrive or Regus or co-working places, and that sort of giving people a place to touch grass, a home base of kinds. But really what they want is to be out selling, and they can do a lot of that getting on Zooms and being in a place where there's a lot of cross-pollination. It's funny, coming to Real Broker, one of the things I noticed is that there is this sort of cross-pollinated tree, and it does happen quietly in the Zoom rooms, essentially, which is where there's, all of this content available, and all you have to do is basically click into it, and you're there. You're in that room.
Ton of collaboration.
Tons. And I think that's where the industry's going.
Night and day collaboration.
Yeah. Like more content, more collaboration, more knowledge sharing, more transfer of information than people realize is even available to them.
I think there's a different wall that comes down as well, if that makes sense. First of all, the traditional model is squeezed. It's not keeping up with inflation from a OpEx perspective, right? It just can't. It just doesn't work that way. Not with all the competition in the marketplace, the changes in commissionable income. Now you have buildings. If agents just understood, even when their owner owns a building, how that OpEx is changing every year, or if they understood, hey, I'm leasing a space as a broker owner, right? And what do my escalations look like? What deal did I negotiate? Did I negotiate it myself? Have I done that before? Or did my ego get in the way when I started my franchise? Right? So you see all of those things, at least that's what I've seen over the years.
Yeah. And
so I just want to make that known. That's a very tough position or disposition, right? So now step into like we're talking about, the 2.0 model, lower barrier of entry. I can navigate the way that I want to navigate financially, and I can collaborate across the country like I've never collaborated before. And I've gone to the conventions. I've gone to the international stuff time after time after time, right? I've met people. I've networked for whatever that's worth. But now I'm doing deals across the country.
Well, what's interesting about the cloud brokerage is there's a lot of people out there who have a license in Indiana because their mom's in Indiana and they spend a lot of time back there, or they have a license in New Mexico because that's where they were from, or they have a builder who now wants to pull them into California for Malibu fire rebuild or whatever, and they can be at a company like this in a single cap, in a national brand with total collaboration in one cap, and operate their business in two places. Right. And I think I'm seeing much, much more of that, where I see the old school models, the more national brands can solve this more easily than the franchise brands. But, to be able to operate your business in two places is clutch for so many real estate people. They love this.
At half the cost?
At half the cost, yeah, with a single cap. Mm-hmm. So, and I just think, the other thing about this cloud model, this company culture where we're at, is that they reward good behavior. And this was something that I didn't quite understand. When I was in real estate with RE/MAX, I was doing philanthropic stuff because my dad told me I should do it, and because I liked the way that felt, and I liked to give, and I liked to do this philanthropy kind of thing, these charitable givings. Well, now this company is going to reward me with stock for doing the thing I already enjoyed doing. And I like to sell houses. Like, I love to sell houses, actually, and I'm very good at it. And I can do, a lot of things with my eyes closed now with one hand tied behind my back, and that's fun and everything, except that where I was at, I was given an accolade for selling houses. I was given a reward. I was given a trophy, actually, physically. And I liked the way that felt for a long time. But then one day I woke up and realized that a company will buy me stock in their company for doing the thing I enjoy doing, which is selling houses. And then, people who like to coach and train, people who like to lead and teach and do classes and put on content, guess what? They reward you for that too. Mm-hmm. And so all the while, they're rewarding you for good behavior. But the major difference between the cloud brokerage stuff at Real Broker and the traditional models is that as a team leader, one of the major problems I pushed up against was that I would bring an agent into my universe and I would teach them everything I knew. I would give them an entire knowledge transfer, a download of my dad and I's cumulative 40 years of real estate knowledge. And if they came in a baby bird and they left a hawk and I had given them that download, then they would leave a team to go build their own team. But never in my career did they leave the broker. Mm-hmm. So I built teams at Remax, and they would leave my team, and they would go downstairs, and they would work for the broker owner. So I was doing this knowledge transfer, and my broker owner or the owner of the company or the managing brokers downstairs were inuring the benefit of my knowledge transfer.
It creates so much burnout.
It creates so much
leaders.
burnout.
Yeah.
Burn down.
And that's a rinse and repeat issue across the country.
Right. So here, if you're going to train people, they reward you for that too.
So I was just speaking with an independent broker last week who I really respect a great deal. She's in the Denver marketplace. For better part of 4 years, she's been cycling through agents. So similar fashion, she runs like a team concept as a broker owner.
Right.
But, she grows people up. They move on for what they think is better somewhere else.
For a variety of reasons. And people
right.
move on for their own things. It's cool. I got it.
Yeah. And so to your point, this model solves that burnout issue, right? Because if you're going to download, you're going to spend all that time, especially as you get older, a little more tenured in this industry, right? You know what you want, you know what you don't want. You're willing to put into people, and there's an associated risk with what we're talking about if you don't have the cloud brokerage. The cloud brokerage removes that risk. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because they can stay, they can move on, you can grow them up, and they are still part of your universe.
Correct.
And you're still able to sort of, I guess, get out what you've put in. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a fair exchange, quite frankly.
People don't pick their heads up and look around, though, until they're ready. But I have to tell you, I think that given Spitzer, given the lawsuits of 2024, the change of the industry, the decoupling of the industry, if you're in this business, your head better pop up. You may not make a move. You may not think you need to move, but I think the deck chairs are shifting rapidly in this industry right now. Yep. And there is a long narrative. I could talk you through it, but it would take us like half a year and it'd take me too long to get there. But I think the point is the industry's changing. The decoupling, the three-legged stool that is our industry has been decoupled. Those legs have all been snapped. And the three-legged stool that is our industry is brokerage, the Board of Realtors, NAR, and MLS. MLS is the baby of the Realtor Association and large brokerage. It was in that synergy that those two things birthed the baby that is the magic listing system, as I lovingly call it.
The magic listing, the computerized listing system.
And all three of those things triangulated, and they were working in the best interest of the consumer. They were working in the best interest of the consumer and have been good for the public and the real estate broker and the franchise owner and the employing broker and the brokerage house and the Realtor Association. It was working. And we have now cracked all three of those legs. The entire stool is still standing on good faith. The stool is standing on the old guard, on the cooperation and compensation of this business as we've known it in the past and as we've always done it, but we are one heavy butt on that chair, known as a seller's market, from those legs cracking and that stool falling. And that means the way real estate agents, brokerages, solo agents, franchise owners, big companies, little companies, small companies, boutiques, independents, things are changing. And I don't mean to scare anybody. I'm just saying, I think things are changing. And I think the 2.0 version of this is, if you're nervous about where your business goes in the next 2 to 5 years because of the nature of the way the industry has shifted coupled with AI, then your head better be up, popped up, eyes forward, ears out, looking around to figure out where you should be. And I know that when somebody like you or somebody like I make a move in this industry to a company like Real Broker, I'd like to think that the people who have been watching and paying attention to my career are going to call and say, why did you go? What do you know that I don't know?
Well, I think that stems from the credibility that you bring to the table, right? As a professional in the marketplace. It's just kind of like, to the broken legs of the stool that you're speaking to, right? I would say, just like I tell my kids sometimes when they make mistakes, it's like, well, you're lacking a certain credibility now, right? So for a player like you to step into...
Oh my God, that would crush me as a 14-year-old.
Well, I mean,
It's true. Those are heavy words from a dad. I love it.
I don't know. I think they ignore me half the time. But, when a player like you steps into a brokerage like this, and I think we're seeing this more and more, right? We're seeing the credible folks that are professional, that handle their business, that grow, that they're just doing all the right things. And the maybe late bloomers or other folks that are sitting on the sidelines that are just unsure, they're starting to look more and more over the fence and realize, maybe I should pay attention to that. Mm-hmm. And they don't know what they don't know until they come in and experience it. Mm-hmm. They know that something's got to give, something's got to change. They're not sure where or how. And I think the cloud brokerages are still early, right? But ultimately, there are more credible folks stepping in saying, oh my gosh, what have I been waiting for? Mm-hmm. Why would I not do this earlier? Why would I not manage my bottom line better? And my growth.
Right. And it's the intersection of fear and trust, right? Like, it's, I have the fear of leaving the place where I'm at, trust the next thing. And then how do you get those two things to line up for you, especially at a life where you're doing other things too, raising kids or, traveling or doing the things living life. And so people are both scared.
Sure. And
they just need more information.
More information that isn't people just kind of throwing up on them. It's like, look, what is this really about? Mm-hmm. And how can it evolve my business, and on what level, right? Is that on production? Is that through, being able to attract and grow an organization? Is it the freedom just to move about and endorse myself the way I want to endorse myself, using the resources the way I want to? Mm-hmm. It looks different for everybody, but I think the information piece is key. That's critical. Yeah. People also get nervous about reaching out. They don't want to rock the boat of where they're at, mm-hmm. right? There's plenty of brokerages that do a great job of, here's your plaque with your award. Mm. Here's your glass trophy.
So 1992.
It's like, I think I stopped picking them up from the office, and it wasn't to be rude or arrogant. It was just like, what am I going to do with that? Mm-hmm. So I think that.
And everybody's reward system is different.
Absolutely.
Some people are rewarded by security. Some people are rewarded by money. Yeah. Some people are rewarded by a trophy. Yeah. I like a trophy, fine. I actually don't know how much money I have in the bank, and I don't know when the next paycheck is coming. But if you give me a trophy, I think I've won. Right. And so people are rewarded by a variety of things. Yeah. But what I've learned is, I can drive down to the trophy shop and pick up a plaque if I'd like.
Right. Yeah. I mean, Amy never gave me a trophy, but I'm sure she would if
I think she has, I think she intends to.
Right.
Yeah, we'll work that out. Lance Somerville, Real Broker. Thanks for coming. Thanks for talking a little bit about cloud brokerage. We have way more of this to do. Yeah.
Dude, tons. We have so much to do. It's ridiculous.
Let's make it a thing.
Yeah, I'm grateful that we're doing this together.
Me too. Thanks for coming. Appreciate you.